Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Bell. A very warm welcome to Life, Loss and Hope. This video is a follow-up to one that I did recently on have you felt your grief is judged? So in the last video I explored how our grief can be judged by family, maybe ourselves, friends and wider society, leaving us longing for understanding and an openness to be able to grieve in an authentic way. To do this, to develop more understanding, our society needs to change its views on grief. And here are just some things that I've learned that bereaved people would like people to know around them. Grief is more like a roller coaster than a flight of stairs. It's not a neat linear line from a start to a finish. And I see it as a series of concentric circles. As you go round them, you may feel the same emotions as you did initially, but the circles just get a little bit bigger. So if you suddenly feel disbelief again, that feeling of I can't believe they're gone, perhaps you feel guilt or anger or despair, you're not going backwards, you're just walking around another circle. And if you imagine that you're walking up a mountain, as you do and go around, the perspective is a bit different each time you do a circle and the view changes. And you can often come back to the same place in grief and emotion, and that's normal. Telling someone it's time to move on or that they should be over it is essentially saying that they should forget their loved one. It's also implying to a grieving person that they're acting in a disappointing way, not meeting society's expectations of what it decrees as a socially acceptable period of time to grief. We don't move on from grief, we move forward with it. Judgment and advice on how someone is grieving does not help a grieving person. What they want is to be fully seen, heard and accepted, not fixed or given advice. In general, society doesn't want to hear about death, grief or pain, and it shuts conversations down. Feelings, and more specifically demonstrations of feelings like crying, can make people generally very uncomfortable. So our emotions can get pushed down, depressed and internalized, resulting in isolation and low mood, and that's not good for anyone. Another important thing bereaved people would like others to know is that the second year, or perhaps even subsequent year, is often harder than the first. Why is this? I think it's largely because society assumes that you've managed all of the first and that you're largely over it. Therefore, people stop asking you how you are, checking in with you, remembering special days and anniversaries, perhaps sending a text of encouragement. The assumption is that you've perhaps moved on, and it is fueled by the idea that grief is that linear line with a beginning and an end that takes either a few months to a year, which, as we know, is far from reality. Employers in particular need to recognise that some employees may need longer off work than a few days or weeks, and that anniversaries can still be upsetting even years later. You'll know yourself, even just hearing a special song on the radio that reminds you of someone you cared about can be like time travel in your mind that brings a sudden wave back of emotion and pain. As a society, we need to let people talk, let people remember. Compassionately remembering the death of a loved one is not going to upset anyone more than they already are. It really won't make things worse by sending them a text to let them know that you're thinking of them, perhaps you're sending love or a hug. Especially if it would have been a birthday or perhaps on Mother's Day or any other special anniversary, including the day that their loved one died. A bereaved person never forgets the death, and if anything, knowing that you've remembered on an anniversary might be a big help to them. When someone has died, others often say to me, I really just don't know what to say. Whatever you do, please don't cross the street or try to ignore what's happened. Believe me, people say this is one of the most hurtful things that has happened to them after loss. And even though we can understand why they did cross the street or pretend not to see us, because they're worried about their own discomfort, or perhaps that they'll make things worse for us, it still really hurts at a time when we need others to acknowledge the heartbreak and reach out to us. So if showing up for a family member or a friend after the death of the loved one makes you feel awkward, upset, or that you don't know what to say or do, please just remember how the grieving person is feeling. Much, much worse and heartbroken. The point is that just showing up shows you care, and something is always better than nothing. And as I said earlier, if you don't know what to say, just tell them that, because there's no right words that will make them feel better. But a simple, I'm here for you, a hug, or even just a hello really is important. Don't try to fix grief by telling them that they should be grateful for the time they had with their loved one, or that they should be happy that their deceased relative had a long life, or say something like, you're young, you can always try for another child, or at least they had a good innings. It's so wounding and crushingly dismissive. Remember that rarely does empathy ever start with the words, at least. It's pretty much impossible to talk a bereaved person out of their pain, and nor should we try. Despite what society might think, the thought of a silver lining or suggesting there's a reason or a lesson to be learned can cause a bereaved person to feel like they're being punished. A person is less likely to open up when they don't feel understood, and the last thing we want is to push people away when they're really reaching out for help and comfort. So here are some things not to say to a grieving person. You'll get over it. You need to take up a hobby. Time is a great healer. They're in a better place. I know exactly how you feel. You must be feeling, and you put your assumption in, or any statement that starts with at least. And here are some things not to do to a grieving person. Don't go into fixing mode, at least without asking them what they need. Don't ignore them or avoid the topic or pretend it just hasn't happened. And please don't make assumptions about how they feel. But here's some things that we can do instead. These are things we can say. It's good to see you. Do you know in grief you feel like Quasimodo? You feel that no one wants to see you or be with you as you just are so sad and a misery and a burden. And the last person, you feel like the last person anybody wants to be with. So it's very uplifting just to say to somebody, I'm happy to see you. Ask them how they're feeling today. Would it help to talk about it? Tell them I'll be checking in on you, and when is good for me to do that? If you feel strongly that a suggestion might help, you may say, have you thought about cancelling or considered it? And here's some things that we can do instead. We could invite them round for a cup of tea and a chat, or offer a phone call or a video call. We can keep our promises to them, especially if we say we'll check up on them regularly. We can send them messages letting them know that they are being thought about, to encourage them, especially around special days and anniversaries. And we can offer practical support, perhaps to cook a meal, walk a dog. These are just some things that I would say bereaved people would like society to know. So please do forward this to your friends and family. And if you're struggling with your loss, being understood, can I reassure you that there is no right or wrong way to grieve, only your way, and your needs will be different from another person. Grief takes as long as it takes, so be gentle with yourself. And if you're worried that you're not coping, you can talk to your doctor or reach out to professionals who can support you compassionately. Having experienced multiple losses myself, I'm now so passionate about grief education because it does help our family, friends and community learn how to support those who are bereaved in a more nurturing way that really encourages healthy grieving. And my role as a hospice chaplain has enabled me to find meaning and purpose after my losses, so that I can give hope, support and validation for all those people whose families tell them that they need to get over it, and friends who say, when will you be back to normal? Because the answer to that is never. We will never be just like we used to be. Eventually, there will be glimmers of joy and happiness and moments when the colour will gradually come back into your black and white world. But we will never be exactly who we were, because we change forever. And that change can transform us in good ways in the fullness of time. It often leaves us with more empathy, compassion, gratitude, and a sharpened sense of what is really important in life. We're surrounded by grief, and whether we are aware of it or not, in the UK, approximately 1,700 people die every day. And for every person who dies, they say, let's just say, have conservatively 10 people who grieve that loss. So that's 17,000 grievers. So we need to be able to support people in a more informed way. To allow healthy grieving to take place, grief must be witnessed, validated, and understood as a natural process and response to a death or the loss of something significant. After all, there are grieving people everywhere, and we can experience a wave of grief at any time or any place. In my experience, it's always been in public ones. At the shops, you may hear a song. You see someone who resembles your loved one. You may smell a perfume or an aftershave. You may forget your PIN number, or you can't make a decision what to have for dinner. All of these things have happened to me in public, and now I'm not afraid or embarrassed to let people see my loss. I will say, I'm missing my loved one today. Please bear with me. I'm having a bad moment. And that really can invite them into your story. And I've been surprised how many people have been much more willing to listen and engage and ask questions. And it also can make them feel good about themselves too. It breaks down barriers. So please share this video to educate people around you and to equip them, because none of us are safe from grief. It strikes everybody eventually. So while all the prior knowledge in the world can't fully prepare anyone for the gravity of heartbreaking loss, it can be reassuring to know that almost everything we experience in grief is unique and yet normal. And grief itself is normal, terrible but normal, and it changes everything. If we can learn to share the journey authentically with each other, it can bring hope, light, and comfort in someone's darkest times and make the journey a little more bearable. Please know that you're not alone.